Welcome to Things That Matter, a show that explores important issues in our lives. But today, it's going to be a conversation between two farmers. Forget whatever else there might be. But today, Unity Dow is speaking to Beauty Manake. Two female farmers having a conversation about the opportunities, the challenges, and the hopes.
Yeah.
Farming. How old were you when you started farming? When you knew I'm going to be a farmer?
I was 25 years
Oh my
old.
God! Tell us more.
I was in the corporate. I think I had about 2 years working, and that was in 2008 and 9. In 2009, there was the recession, the world recession.
Mhm.
And then during that time, I think it was around December, we were hoping for better diamond sales around Valentine's Day. And one of my senior managers did mention that no, Valentine's Day sales will be much better, so we'll probably be. I'm like, okay, I don't understand how does Valentine and Diamond really, because for us, I thought we are more into industrial, like very important things when it comes to the diamond world. So that's when I picked it up and I was like, no, we've been sitting at home for quite some time, and the most important thing that we were doing was eating, and we're eating food that is produced by farmers. I'm
Mhm.
not saying the diamond is not important, it's very important for our economy, but I would like to be part of the sector that touches people's lives on a daily basis. And my mother was a vegetable hawker.
Mhm.
She would go to South Africa, fruits and vegetables,
Mhm.
import them into the country.
Mhm.
So when we were growing up, me and my brother, during the school holidays at Alakoyo, we will actually go with her to these different farms. So we knew the ins and outs of the farming. And also we knew how much she was making. So at the time, my first salary was about 10,000 pula. That was in 2008. And that was a lot of money for me.
Mhm.
I think in my family, I was the first one to actually have a five digit. I didn't, it didn't care even if it was 10,000.
Yeah.
And my mother was actually making more than that within a week. And I
Mhm.
was like, if I see my mother travel Kadana on a weekly basis,
Mhm.
and many other women, they
Mhm.
actually
Mhm.
go to
Mhm.
South Africa and import their fruits and vegetables.
Mhm.
I can do this business and they can come to my farm. So that's basically how I told her I'm going to resign. I didn't say I'm going to, no, no, I'm going to retire. I didn't say I'm going to
Tired
resign.
25.
Sorry.
Like,
I'm
really?
going to retire at 25 years old and I'm going to be a farmer. And that's exactly what I did. At 25, I resigned from my corporate job and became a farmer, a full
Wow.
time farmer.
I mean, I have a similar story in a way. I mean, not similar story, but I started farming in my 30s as well. I didn't quit my job.
Yeah.
During the week, I was a lawyer wearing suits, but on weekends, I was farming. Then it wasn't commercial farming for me at the time. Once again, really lesson from my mother as well, and my father.
Mm,
My father was a namely Nisi as a
yeah.
young man. So
Okay.
in a way, farming has always been in our blood. So what did your friends think?
My mother, let me start up with my parents. My mother was not too happy with it, but every time she came back from selling her fruits and vegetables, she'll have a lot. She'll be counting her money as, yay, that was a lot of money. She wasn't too happy about it. I think she wanted me to be
Yeah.
a city girl. She wanted me to look good,
Mm-hmm.
wear heels, do my nails, be
Mm-hmm.
like other normal girls.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was so excited. He
Oh,
was
that's great.
so happy, and he was the one. And my mother kept on saying, "You are the one who's encouraging her to do these bad things." So
Mm-hmm.
with my friends, I wouldn't really say for much
Mm-hmm.
about them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think we've just started work and we've
Mm-hmm.
just started our lives, and everybody was choosing their own path.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for them, it was like, okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And what do you find?
Started with vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
We have we've also done some pilots on the fruits, which now we are going full commercial into
Mm-hmm.
them. We actually into more integrated farming. Go farming yellow herets and bobono. And over time, like I think that one will come on the hopes and the opportunities. We are trying to do more on the secondary production, value addition,
Mm-hmm.
etc., etc. And also, we do have the cattle ranch, whereby we're rearing different types or breeds of cattle and
Mm-hmm.
also small stock in the
Mm-hmm.
Gaga area.
I mean, I feel like I've been farming for more than 20 years, probably. I think because I was about your age,
Yeah.
when I started farming. Don't tell anybody how old I am. Okay? So don't say how old you are. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't want
won't.
anybody doing any mathematics here, okay?
Too old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was in my 30s when I started farming. More what we call subsistence farming, although it wasn't subsistence for me because I was subsisting on my salary from as a lawyer, and my husband was a teacher.
Yes.
But I remember on weekends, we go to the farm. It wasn't very far from here, in Marasisa,
Mm.
and we mahabu, and sweet reed, and maize, and people were thinking, why are you spending so much time on this? But I really think that if you, it's almost like an addiction.
Yeah.
You know, farming, seeing things grow,
Yes.
is an addiction.
Giving.
There's nothing
Yeah.
that actually gives you more peace than seeing. Would you say that?
Well, I always say that in terms of belief or faith, farmers are the best believers
Okay.
because they put seed on the ground and expect something to come out and to
Mm-hmm.
grow and to
Mm-hmm.
mature and to be exactly what they are looking for. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, listen, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful feeling to be part of that,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that and
Mm-hmm.
caring for that, being able to harvest it or sell it off and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that people do have food to eat and that food
Mm-hmm.
is actually very nutritious, and also the different opportunities which I believe that we haven't explored in our
Mm-hmm.
country. One of the reasons why I ended up because I was an IT person. I was an IT
Okay.
officer.
Okay.
I was at DTCB and Depswana.
Mm-hmm.
So when I left, I knew nothing about farming. The only farming I knew was from secondary school, I think.
Yes.
Even at senior secondary school, I didn't do agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really very difficult, and also now going on it commercially, not really
Mm-hmm.
understanding exactly what to do and what not to do. And
Mm-hmm.
also, unfortunately for me, immediately after doing the first plantation, about a month, I had a terrible car accident. So I couldn't walk for over 6 months. I had to
Mm-hmm.
be in and out of
Mm-hmm.
hospitals
Mm-hmm.
just to get back on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
So that 6 months really stole a lot
I can.
from me, a new farmer. You are not there in the market, and also access to the market, because
Yeah.
now you are
Yeah.
expecting that I'm also home with my phone. I'm expecting that immediately when my crops are ready, they will be
Yeah.
bought. But hey, that's not the case.
I just have to share a
Yeah.
story with you because my first cabbage harvest, okay?
Yes.
I had this guy who had, how,
Yeah.
farm managers, they manage one person, they're farm manager. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many. Anyway, this guy, I mean, something kind of went wrong with his brain, anyway. So, I mean, I cried, literally cried tears because I got to the farm and he had harvested all the cabbage in the farm and put it in a pot. Okay. And he wasn't even there. And he had taken the little highlights that we had and gone to some small village. I mean, that's not village so small that even if he had sold every cabbage in the truck, he would have still have some left for him to come back. But it turned out that he was going through some kind of mental meltdown. It just had to happen. When my cabbage
It
was
was
ready
already.
to go to market, and I remember, going to the farm. I went with because somebody said, "Look, you need to come to the farm because something terrible has happened." When I got there, I found this pile of cabbage, just heaps, just cut it up in a heap there. And I was with his friend, and I was asking him, like, what happened? He clearly was, having mental issues, but I never forget because he took the phone and called his brother and said, I think you must come and get me here. Because I really think I have just done something really, really bad. I mean, but anyway, it's a long story, but I can tell you there was, again, after that, everything you have to start all over again.
Yeah.
That's one of the things about, but I didn't stop.
Yeah.
I
And you
you
don't,
you can't
yeah.
stop. I mean, you can't stop. Would you say that's true?
Listen, you don't stop. For me, it was also about, I think it was about Kantele, I said. It wasn't really about my friends, but they kept me going because some of them had bought some very nice cars, bought
Uh-huh.
houses in gaps, and
Mhm.
I was in the rural areas, like rural.
Mhm.
So for me, it has always been because at the time when I was supposed to actually, when I was tendering my resignation, they're like, listen, we were thinking to second you abroad just for you. And I was like, nah, I'll take myself abroad. And now, when you are on the ground and that is not happening with all the challenges, yay, you wonder, how do I go back there? But at the back of my mind, I said, you know what, I'm not going to quit and I'm not going to fail. I'm going to do it until I actually succeed at it. As long as my mother has to travel over 1,000 kilometers every week to go get fruits and vegetables,
There must be a market.
there
Yeah.
must be a market. It's just us understanding how to actually get that market, which is one of the reasons why I decided that, because I only had an undergrad year business information systems, to say, now that I understand how to do the agricultural production, I do not understand to do agriculture as a
The
business.
business.
So I wanted to actually get my produce out of the farm to the people, to the folk, jalo le jalo. So that's when I wanted to had gone to some of our local institutions, but my husband was like, when you're talking about agriculture, we are not so big in it. Even when you go there, you're still
Yeah.
going to come back with the same thing. It's not like you're going to do anything. Yes, you'll have an MBA and then what? And so I started applying. I started doing GDEs, TOEFLs. I started, yeah. So until I found some school in France, they defined me. It was an MSc in food and agribusiness management. So basically, there were farm visit, there were industry visit, there were masters of industry really coming and giving you lessons, and you understanding exactly what you need to do. So I couldn't really miss that opportunity. So we decided to take everything that we had and went. I remember just 2 days before I could leave, we were told that the school has been postponed to open a month later. So now we had to decide that if stay here, I'm going to eat all this meat. So I had to go to France and stay for a month without really at school, but obviously did my French lessons just to get by. So yeah, that's when I went and got to understand and appreciate more about agricultural development, especially sustainability, especially nutrition, especially the food systems, that it is beyond the farm. If you really want to grow an economy, it's beyond the farm. If you really want to create quality jobs like the middle class economy that we are talking about. So when I completed, he insisted that because he was more into the cattle, I should also try go do something, and that's when we decided for the Brazil one.
Went to Brazil as well.
Yes, I went to Brazil and did an MBA in marketing, agribusiness marketing, but specifically for the cattle industry.
Okay. That's
Yes.
really amazing. I mean, you don't get these kind of stories, often from somebody deciding, I want to do this and I'm investing my time
And
and
my
my
money.
money into actually getting there. Often we sit around, and then you get upset. So I think, that's,
Yeah, and I remember calling one December, and because I couldn't afford to come back home for holidays, we couldn't afford to buy me a ticket so that I can come for holidays. Yeah, my son was asking me that. I was told, "Hori, you are going to come when I'm doing standard 5." Yo, that broke my heart. That broke my heart, and the other one hasn't even started the preschool. Eh, at the time he was very young and I left him, and yeah, I came back, I left him again, having to move back to Gaborone. So yeah.
But that's also a unique story because we grew up at a time when we are told and taught that Botswana is a desert or semi-desert. Nothing can grow it. I mean, it was, you understand? So we actually, this idea that Botswana can grow anything, that new kind of voice came maybe, I would say 15 years ago, really. That many of us grew up knowing
They-
Botswana is a desert.
Even on the fruit trees, and right now, if you go to Hansi, it's amazing. You go to Hansi, they are doing some of the biggest potato plantations. Hansi is becoming one of the food baskets of this country. It's becoming very pro in terms of agricultural development, both in the cattle industry and in the horticultural industry. So I think, and also now that we are trying to focus more on the agroecological areas to actually say what can, where is water, where is good soil, where is good environment to actually produce this thing. You're actually appreciating and finding out we've got more potential than we actually thought.
Mm,
If Israel can do it, why can't we do it? We are even better placed
in terms
in
of
terms of underground water, in terms of our environment, in terms of a lot of things. We also have good arable land that is sitting idle. Yes.
so it's really uh, I think it's again I would say it's a unique story because it's many people. For example, if I took myself as a lawyer, I didn't grow up thinking I want to be a lawyer. Okay, it was almost like guided by teachers, and you end up being a lawyer. You know, but you actually decided at a very young age to have to redirect your life. You know, to a path that you had chosen. You know, and
Yes.
it,
Yes.
um,
And
how can young people learn from that?
I remember when I took that decision, I did all the maths and said, "This is how much we'll be making," giving it to my husband, and he let me. The time when I was crying, he said, "These are your numbers." So I took accountability and responsibility of that as my decision. This is my decision. Nobody forced me to actually do it. But I think for our young people, they're very lucky because now there's more information. If I know, if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have been a farmer. I would have gone into the secondary production of the agricultural sector, into the value chains, and provided more market for people, especially in rural areas where agriculture is actually the base of everything. So I think Bone now they've got a better chance in actually making it because we are trying to share more information and exploring and explaining the different opportunities which are there in the agricultural sector. And as a country, if we don't actually explore these different value chains, we'll never be able to grow our economy because Botswana market is very small. So we have to actually have alternative markets for us to be able to redirect our crops.
Okay. Well, BT, again, one farmer to another. Um, this is things that matter, and there's a conversation between two farmers. The conversation will continue after the break, and when we come back, we will talk about what does Beauty see in the future, her own future as a farmer, and the future of the country, you know, as a farming country. Beauty, after the short break, let's come back and discuss things that matter. Welcome back to Things That Matter. And today's episode is a conversation between two farmers, Unity Dow and Beauty Manake. Can we continue, with our conversation? And I really think that many people like to know, where do you see farming in Botswana in the next 10 years, next 20 years? What do you think, is needed to make changes? And where do you see yourself as a farmer in
Yeah.
10 to 20 years?
As a farmer who is a smallholder farmer, I hope. um, Listen, production cost in Botswana is extremely high, and it's because of the value chains that we have actually been talking about. We are still importing, we are a net importer of all the inputs that we use in the agricultural sector, especially, let's take an example with the horticultural sector industry. We still importing fertilizers, we still importing pesticides, we still, I mean, chemicals. We also still importing a lot of seeds and seedlings.
Seedlings as well.
So the only part where we are playing is the farming, as you've already said it. But until we develop and strengthen the value chain within the agricultural sector or the horticultural sector, then a lot of people will be able to be part of the farming sector, and we can be able to feed ourselves and feed other people, feed Africa. Mostly important, feed Africa. So until we strengthen and develop new value chains, there's no how we are going to be able to survive as farmers because the production cost keeps going high almost every year, but the prices on the ground are not increasing. I was selling something earlier. I remember even 5 years ago, we were still selling at the same price, but the production costs have gone highly up. The electricity has gone up, all the things that I've been mentioning have actually gone up. And you can't keep keeping people like the staff workers, giving them very low salaries while the inflation has gone up and way of living is actually increasing almost every single day. So there is need to actually refocus in terms of investing and ensuring that you attract the right investors to come and fill the gaps that I've been talking about. Then we will have a better future in terms of farming in Botswana.
I mean, I think you make a valid point about the cost of inputs, and the cost of various aspects the value chain. If you are a small, farmer, for example, you still have to get seedlings. So you're either forced to go into seedlings, which is really another sector.
Yeah.
Otherwise you have to import them so, and then after that you need to invest in transport.
Yes.
Again, to take your produce to the market. You have, now you have to, so there's so much, aspects of farming that you are forced to go into. All you wanted to do was a farmer.
All you wanted to do as a farmer. That's exactly what I keep on saying. To say, listen, for me, I've been in an accident with the so-called truck that was supposed to be the farm truck, and then I hired a driver with another car, and they got into an accident. And then I said, I'm stopping. I'm a farmer. Whatever I'm going to start negotiating is that whoever is my customer has to come to my farm and collect and take to their market, because all that I want is just to be a farmer. But I think our financial institutions, maybe all the different, even the commercial ones, did not understand the agricultural sector the way they should have understood it. Otherwise, they could have given different packages in terms of people by Longkore can provide the transportation that you were talking about, especially the youth, through maybe the youth fund, logistics, refrigeration trucks that can come to Bobonong and collect from maybe 2 3 farmers and take it to the market. I remember back in the days we used to drive with a 1.5-ton truck to deliver in Gaborone at the market, at the horticultural market. And if you factor in fuel that you actually have utilized and also the accommodation for us,
And the cost of boxes.
and the packaging material, and we are still importing it from other countries. There's nobody right now who's actually manufacturing it locally. So that is where we are supposed to actually be focusing in terms of strengthening the value chains, in terms of our financial institutions actually looking at. And also, I think we've got a lot of, as a farmer, not as a legislator, I think we've got a lot of small programs which are developmental, scattered everywhere, and are unable to really grow people to go to the next step that can actually be able to give them the balance to feed Botswana and become future and better farmers. So if we could actually have entrepreneurship development, which is sound in the agricultural sector, we will actually be able to go far as farmers.
Farmers.
Yes.
And you still want to stick with farming? I mean, at the times I think, oh, why did I have to go to this? Because I can tell you, there are times when, I'm thinking, why am I putting so much time and money in this? You have a whole beautiful crop of maybe a hectare of tomatoes, and disease comes and wipes it out. But you still have to pay, your.
Whoever you owe. Listen, I'm not, that's the only thing I love and I believe has a future for Botswana. And I have a future in, because we'll never stop eating. Yes, there's never going to be a time when somebody says the farming sector in Botswana is mature, or we will no longer be producing food because we have enough food. And also the value chains, the byproducts, the processing that we could actually get out of the byproducts are so huge. And now the opportunity is really in the secondary production. Yeah, I'm inviting people to say, come and see.
Maybe you can explain what is secondary production.
Secondary production, now we are talking about processing, kind of value addition. You can value addition by packaging. That is value addition, because some farmers are still selling batsanyamudi crating through crates. I get it. So the next level will be now to clean grade this tomato and put it in a smaller nyana or nicer nyana box and also pack it. A Now that is ready to go to an organized retail market. That is value addition on its own. And like we were saying, if there was somebody who was actually manufacturing them locally, we would see Bo Mamati on them, we'll see Bo Kungo farms on them. We'll actually go into a shop and not wonder if this is a South African product, and know that these are actually locally produced. But because we buy from the same whoever who's writing made in Botswana. You never know which one is Mamatli, which one is actually Kungo Farms, and the kind of quality that Botswana has gotten to appreciate and has gotten to produce. I always say that, listen, the horticultural farmers are some of the most advanced because they've really worked hard without maybe government assisting them. So they are resilient. Those are people that I really have a lot of respect on, because I know what we go through on a daily basis and how difficult it is. Like you've said, you're thinking everything is well, and then just one night everything is
And like
done.
it's winter right
Yeah,
now, winter week,
every and then you count, you're already doing your projections, and tomorrow it's all black.
it's all black.
Eh,
Like
so
I mean, it's winter now, and just to share with you, I do have a hectare of tomatoes that I'm hoping will. They're not ripening because it's too cold. They're
yeah.
becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And today one of my customers said they are too big. I don't want big tomatoes. I can shrink them. But really
Now that's where the value chain that we are talking about is coming into place. Those that the market cannot consume can be processed, but also in terms of marketing and in terms of us finding better markets. If you go to the European markets, you find different types of tomatoes. Those who want big table tomatoes will get them small, cocktail and everything. We should have that variety, even locally, and maybe do a lot of nutritional marketing. Tell them the amino acids, or is it the proteins, the vitamin C that is found in tomatoes. Like right now, if you take an example with broccoli and it's broccoli and cauliflower. Do you know that they actually have more vitamin C than the oranges that we wait once a season?
I do know that.
And a lot of us don't even know how to prepare broccolis. But if we could, as farmers, it's not the government, it's not the marketing, it's us farmers coming up with a marketing tool, even a cooking show, to showcase how this thing is actually cooked, showcase the nutrients that is in it, working maybe with the Ministry of Health if they can actually provide us with more information, and educating Botswana on more healthy eating, which is mostly what we are producing. If you take millet against sorghum, apparently millet has got more proteins and nutrition than the sorghum.
But sorghum's got more than most, which is many other grains.
Many other eggs.
So those are two super grains.
Those are two super grains, but you still need the cultivation of millet remains very low in Botswana. And also maize, like with millet, the value chain is actually a bit vast. Now people are brewing it into quality premium beer in the Akavango brew. There's a lot of other value chains that are actually happening in there. And Botswana would need to be given this information so that they know which crop is actually more valuable in terms of even returns. Last time I checked as a farmer, you get about 2,700 pula a ton of sorghum, while with millet 4,500 pula from BAM. Well, but in terms of returns, but matate then in terms of dinonyani, the pests which are actually attacking it. So there's a lot of opportunities within the agricultural sector. We just need to understand what are the gaps and what can be turned into opportunities so that we can invite them to come and be part of the industry. Because Rona, all that we need is just to be farmers, but we want somebody to be buying from us so that we continue producing. But yes, and we also need other markets from other countries whereby we could get competitive and premium prices.
There's a type of farming that kind of went into recession, if I may use that term, but it's picking up again. Small stock farming. When we were young, for example, I used to have goats. My family, almost every family had goats, and then they almost kind of disappeared. And almost every other family had sheep, and they kind of disappeared. But now there seems to be more an interest in that. Do you think there's a market for that? Do you think it's a valuable as a farmer? I know you farm primarily cattle, and also you farm
A bit of small
horticulture.
stock. But with the small stock, for us, it has always been say sharp.
I guess.
But if you also look in each and every family in Botswana, they have small stock. So they're not going to go to the shop and buy small stock meat. They will slaughter their own goat or ship at their house and consume it. That is basically what we've actually seen.
Accept.
But now with the market, which His Excellency has been talking more about it, we are hoping if it becomes organized, it will open up a lot of opportunities for smallholder farmers, looking at the kind of prices, because the only thing that has been missing with the small stock is because they did not have a market. Like you said, back in the days, the Francistown Abattoir, I think the BMC had a line specifically for the small stock. But when it stopped, that actually demotivated people from producing more of it and started just being one of the livestock within the family. But I think it's coming back and it's picking up, and we are excited to actually be part of it. There are several abattoirs that are being built locally, which will be able to support its export. And maybe talking about the export, the private abattoirs, we see a lot of them now picking up and exporting carcasses to other countries. It's actually a very lucrative business because as a farmer, I've gotten more than I've ever gotten ever since I started farming in terms of the cows. On average, we've been getting around 12.50 per kg for a winner. Right now, we're getting about above 24 pula, so that is actually double the price. So now, as farmers, we are able to do a lot of things that we couldn't do before: reinvest, buy bulls, go to an auction, do a lot. I just, as a farmer, I attend a lot of auctions. I think 3 weeks ago, I went to an auction in, yeah, Lion Park.
Okay, how it was.
And also, that's the beautiful part about farming nowadays. People even do it in town. Small holding of 4 hectares, they can have their homestead there and also have their small stock and livestock there. And one of the interesting things is that they were selling some cement straws.
Okay.
A cement straw was about 1,900.
I know what a cement store is. I'm sure there are many people there who don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, a cement straw. I get that's one.
It's semen, so it's intended for
For artificial insemination.
Okay.
For artificial insemination, which is a technology that has always been there, but we have never actually utilized it. Very few people are taking advantage of it, but it's a very cheaper way of
That's true.
ensuring that you are actually reproducing. Because on average, through some researches as a farmer, a bull can give you about 10,000 semen straws throughout its lifespan.
10,000 possible offspring.
Springs across the whole country, but a bull which I take to my farm will probably give me about 250 offsprings throughout its lifespan. So now technology, you see this the Ramatlabana facility was built in the 1960s. Yeah.
I mean, again, it's one farmer to another. And also, remember when we started, I said how I got interested in farming. My dad was a Mulinisi, as a young man.
Yes.
I was in that farming for a long time. And I also do remember that, when I started cattle farming, I'm a very small, whole in terms of cattle farming. Actually, I took my cattle to the artificial insemination center in Dibete. You understand? And it still exists. It's totally unutilized. For people in Ishibisa, for example, or people in Mokan, or people in Dibete, or in Atisha, I mean, you can literally walk your cattle to the AI, take them back, 5 months later, pregnant.
Which is why now, as a farmer, because now we have a lot of scientists coming up, especially the young vets who've come from school and would like to actually see a difference. Even some of the scientists from Buan, Bailongkor, would like to actually provide this service at your farm, at your convenience. Like with what is currently the case, you are only allowed to walk 5 to the artificial insemination, but you have about 100 of them. What do you do with all of them? So, which is why we're saying there's a lot of opportunities that are coming to provide that service. Mobile AI, they will just advise you, this is the type of feed that you need to feed your cattle. And how do you say, when they are ready to receive a bull, now they are ready to actually be artificially inseminated. And the chances of, the chances of I forgot what it's called, honeymoon, in terms of conception, yeah, I think is about 85%, which is a very good and high percentage. And you can actually improve. So there's a lot, and also that the government is doing that we are not utilizing as farmers. So there's a lot. Also, it doesn't have to be the government. Even farmers can actually, bana ba rona, they're sitting not doing much. But there's a lot of opportunities within the agricultural sector. Mm.
In all kind of
In
the
all, even the
varieties.
IT, yeah, ICT, there's a lot. Apps, applications which we could be utilized. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. So
So when you look into the future, 10 years from today, 20 years from today, if if the banks came to the table, if policies came to the table, if everybody believed in farming the way you and I believe in, what do you see? Where do you see Botswana in 20 years time? What is possible?
there's a lot possible with everything that you've just mentioned, starting with the policy. If the policy is right, now you get the money, you get these developmental banks, even the commercial banks, to start investing properly in the agricultural sector. Now you start developing entrepreneurs within the agricultural sector. We will actually go far and diversify this economy more than what it is earning right now. And the beautiful part about the farming is that, or the agricultural sector, is that it affects each and every one. Unlike with the diamonds that we never really get to see, very few people are allowed to actually see it. But with the cows, with our mirojo, with our fruits, we get to touch and see them. So there's a lot that could actually benefit out of the whole population, yeah, Botswana, if we were to actually do things. There's a lot. Listen, there's a lot. It will.
So you don't think, for example, you and I as farmers should say people should not come in, they'll compete with us, they must stay out. You think there's room for more people to play in this space?
There's more for people to play in the space once we've got everything right. And those are the markets. I've been listening a lot, or going a lot listening to some of our officers, Baba Limisi, and saying, no, once we get we are able to feed ourselves, we'll be able to export. No, we have to be sure that we don't even produce for ourselves. We produce to even feed other people when we cannot feed ourselves. Because the unfortunate part about it is that some things that we can produce locally, maybe our society does not consume,
Exactly.
but other people can actually consume. Like with the piggery, dikolobe, only 10% of our population consume it. But only last year, gape go ne go impotile 2.1 billion worth of dipolobe and its byproduct. Eh.
I think you make a great, comment about the fact that we often think, and I think that's, we must feed ourselves first, and then how another change she will feed others. But yeah, same for example, strawberries. Strawberries may not necessarily be something that, many people here like, but the soil may be right, the environment may be right, so I really think you make a valuable,
And that is what we need to continue talking to our officers about, and advising them that no, let us produce as much as we can and bring in different government parastatals to assist us with the market, and also get the policy right, like you were saying. Got to get everything right.
One last comment is about infrastructure. For example, if you had a bank, you are, the system of gives you a road, gives you power, gives you water, it gives you understand, it gives you internet. If you had a farmer, the system gives you nothing. You're supposed to build your own road, bring your own power, bring your. So, do you think, do you want to comment about what you think the system should be doing in support of farmers' infrastructure?
I think we need to understand what is agricultural development. Once we understand that, we will never talk like that. We will put money where it matters to grow the people, especially in rural areas where farming and agriculture, we are saying, is the base and can actually develop these people. That's where we need to put money and ensure the roads are there,
It's
the
month end,
internet is there.
It's almost month end. I'm sure you have to pay salaries with your farm. On average, how many people do you have your farm?
About 20.
Same thing here. I've got 25 people working for me. And those people have to be paid every month. So every farmer out there is contributing to this vision of employment, youth employment, growth of the economy. And therefore, it's not just about you and I being farmers, it's also about contributing to the larger economy of this country.
Exactly, but somebody mentioned a very important point, saying exactly what you said about infrastructural development in the agricultural sector, that we need to stop talking and doing. When it comes to agriculture, let's put money. Some things we'll mention when we are wearing other hats to actually say this is how we actually need to advocate for more in terms of agricultural production. As a young person, I think it was 2013, that was exactly 8 years ago. I was chosen to represent Botswana at CADIP, one of the African Union arms in terms of agricultural development. And one of the things that they've already always said is that we were a signatory to the Maputo Declaration. And even in 2014, we were also in Malabo. So basically, what other government has done, I'll give an example with Rwanda, is that they dedicate 10% of their total budget to agricultural development, to agriculture. But instead, agriculture has to grow the GDP by 6% on an annual basis. And if you see and understand what is happening in Rwanda and other countries that have actually signed the compacts, agriculture is really growing. It's growing. People are getting the roads, people are getting the infrastructure. And I hope our leaders will advocate for that when we are wearing other hats. Yeah.
You and I, as farmers, one farmer to another,
Yeah.
it's a great conversation about farming, where, why we went into it, and why we stay with it, And I have to say, just like you said earlier on, there's nothing as heartwarming as seeing green.
Yeah.
So I was at the farm yesterday, for example, looking at these tomatoes, they're refusing to ripen, but I'm looking at my cabbage and think, oh my God, it's just great. So then you look at the throw,
Therapy.
so it's almost like looking at little babies in a way.
Yeah, nothing really matters at that point. You are just.
Well, Beauty Manake, thank you very much for coming to this show, Things That Matter.
Thank you very much for reigniting my journey and why I fell in love with this sector and why I believe it's the future. And I would like for everyone that I can influence to identify where they could actually fit in the value chain and make a difference.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you. See you next week on this show, Things That Matter.
Dumela, dumela, dumela.